In the Ozarks, people have always lived in rhythm with the natural world. Hunting, fishing, living off the land aren't just things we like to do, it's who we are. And though our lives are inextricably linked to the land we live on, today we've never been more disconnected from it. So join us as we travel across the region, bringing you the voices of the Ozarks, deepen our connection to the land, sharpen our skills in the outdoors, and learn what it means to be an Ozarker. Welcome back to the Ozark Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Veit, joined as always by co-host of the show and my good buddy, Mr. Kyle Plunkett.
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
It's the rare just two of us episode.
It is.
It's going good. I'm actually really excited for this.
Yeah.
It's rare that we get to talk more than our guest talks. And normally, I hate talking. I'd rather our guest talk. But this time, I don't know. It's been cold. Not much going on. I'm ready for turkeys and fishing.
Yeah.
It's like I kind of want to talk. Get something out of my system.
That's right.
So I'm feeling good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm excited. We've had some fun stuff. We're gonna dive into some of the content that we've put out recently on the reels and the stuff that y'all have reacted to. And thankfully, over the last month or so, you guys have reacted to a ton of stuff. We had a few reels just that kind of went crazy, and people were commenting. We had one that had over 1,000 comments of people. Some were hate, some were controversy, some were love. So
most for hate.
Yeah. But it actually, a lot of those people weren't actually y'all, the listeners. We stirred up the hornet's nest down in Louisiana.
We sure did. You sure did. Let me clarify. You sure did.
Yeah. And
I had nothing to do with that post.
Dude, it's so great. I happened into a little happy accident, and I didn't know. I struck a chord with some people down there.
It was awesome.
They got fired up. So we're going to be diving into those and walking through those. But before we get into that, we're just coming off of Black Bear Bonanza, and always a super, super cool event. What'd you think?
Man, love seeing everybody. Love meeting people. Love doing the owl hoot. I just had a blast.
It's just like, it's one of those events that I was saying this to somebody. It's this and the squirrel cook-off, those two events. To me, it's just like, it's the highlight of the year.
Yeah, you like mark your calendar based on those two.
Yeah,
you're like
you drop
Easter,
everything.
Christmas, and then squirrel cook-off and Bonanza.
That's right. That's right.
That's where I'm at anyway.
Yeah, no, it's way up there. And I think for me, it's getting to meet and talk to so many people who share common values and care about the outdoors, but also just like hanging out and talking hunting and fishing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Things like that. You can't beat a crowd like that.
No, you can't. It's a good time. It's a good time just getting to meet people and, I don't know, swap stories and tell hunting stories and whatever else. It's a blast.
Yeah. Appreciate the folks that came up to us and talked to us at our booth, and we always love hearing who's listening to the show and who wants to hear more or different things. That's always good for us to hear. So had fun with that. And on that note, there's a couple other events coming up that we wanted to at least mention to y'all as things to keep an eye out for, because they are also really cool events, and again, like-minded people getting together to spend time outdoors, telling stories, making stories, having an adventure.
Oh, yeah.
So the first one is the second annual smallmouth shootout.
Yep.
And like I said, second annual, it's put on by the Mayfly Project, right?
It is.
Tell me a little bit about this, just for anyone who doesn't know it.
Yeah, I'm pulling up notes on my phone, but this is the Mayfly Project's, I think it's Arkansas chapter.
Yeah.
So they all have a bunch of different chapters, but they do the smallmouth shootout. And that's coming up on May 31st at the Kings River. And it's a fun team. It could be a single person, but really they want to be a two-person team competition.
Yeah.
And the competition starts out as a single fly competition to whatever fly you're using. You can catch smallmouth and count it towards the length.
But you have to use that single fly,
that one
right?
fly for total length for the scoring. But then once you break that fly off, you can keep fishing, but you go to the general bracket.
Okay.
And the general bracket, the rules are different, whatever else. But it's like everybody starts out single fly.
Yeah.
And then once you break it or lose it, whatever, you got to go to the general, and then it's scored different.
Okay.
So it's kind of a fun hybrid mix.
It's a unique kind of competition.
Yeah.
You don't normally hear about stuff like that.
No, and it's different than just, single fly competitions are kind of popular now.
Okay.
But people can be done in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If
you
they
break
fish
it off.
poorly or break it off, right? And so at least this way you can keep fishing and could probably still win.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's May 31st. There's a whole bunch of stuff online that they're putting out on how to sign up and entry fees and all that kind of stuff. But it seems like a really fun way to spend a weekend. Get a team of 2, bring your own kayak, rent a kayak if you'd like at Kings River Outfitters, I believe. But try to win by catching the biggest smallmouth.
Yeah, I love it, man. That'll be fun, and we're gonna help get y'all ready for that. We've got some content around that, and I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode.
Some insider info.
Yeah,
how to do it well.
Yeah,
how to win,
and it's gonna be timely too. We're taking out a guide, and it's gonna be right before that event. So I'll mention that again at the end, so you don't forget. We'll come back to that. The second one that I want to mention real quick is Brewhaw Bushwhack. Mm-hmm. Now, this is an event put on by Pack Rat and our buddy Rick Spicer, who we've had on the show, and it's a skills challenge / race, if you will. It's not a traditional race. It's kind of putting yourself to the test. It is a team game. There's everything from some, fire building to knot tying, to traditional archery shooting.
It's like Boy Scouts on steroids.
Yeah, it's the real deal.
It's awesome.
And so you kind of need a varied skill set of teams. It's not like if you go and everybody's just really good at shooting the trad bow, the stick bow, you're not going to get the other stuff done.
Right.
So you got to, there's some strategy, some gameplay there. And so that is coming up on April 5th, and that's down on the Mulberry.
Yep.
So down that way. But registration is open. I think there's still some spots available, but it always fills up. So if you're interested and you want to kind of try something new, check it out. Go sign up and get down there.
That one's fun too because it's a different crowd than the fly fishing crowd or the Black Bear Bonanza. I mean, it's going to catch a whole bunch of different people, but this one leans outdoor survival type stuff.
Yeah,
which is really it's like so close to what we always talk about, but it's just enough of a different vein.
Yeah. Totally.
That just makes it really fun. So I'm excited to be there.
Yeah. And they're going to have a bunch of beer there. There's going to be some breweries there. So it's also just kind of a fun hangout too. Mm-hmm. And I don't think everybody even competes. Sometimes people are just hanging out.
I'm not competing.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there.
You're not going to compete?
Nope.
We don't actually have a team signed up. So
yeah. We are not competing.
No, we're going to be
unless you're on a team that I don't know about. And then you could be competing.
Might be. Could be a trader.
You could be.
Another team.
It's cool.
So yeah. We'll hope to see y'all down there. Just want to drop that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's just jump into it.
I like it.
We had some fun reels, some fun stuff. We've been talking recently. We started the year with our cave episode.
Yep.
And learning all about karst topography and just kind of diving into the geology and science side of like the land that we live on. What makes it unique? How does water flow through it? Mm-hmm. Why the heck does anybody even care or need to know? And diving into that. And so we learned some stuff. And actually, when we recorded part 1, learning about the cave, took a break, went down into the cave. We were down there for a couple hours, walking around. It was huge. Came out, and then we talked again about what we learned. But when we were down there, we recorded some videos, and one of the videos that we recorded was Dave Woods, one of our guests, talking about the way that they do the water tracing, the dye tracing in the water. And we posted it on Facebook, and didn't even look until the other day, looked on there, and boom, it went for over 1 million views just on that one. And it was just a clip of him talking about how they do the charcoal tracing. And so I'm going to play that real quick, and then we can kind of talk about it and add any other insight that we learned while we were down there in the cave.
This is activated carbon, coconut charcoal. There's about 4 grams of coconut charcoal in there. It has about 1 acre of surface area. Whoa. For dye to adsorb to. So this will adsorb the dye. We put this in the stream, tie it to a rock or tie it to a root wad, do a dye trace, and this can adsorb the dye over a long period of time. So we don't need to be there to look for the dye coming through the spring or stream. We take this back to our lab. We use a strong base to elute the dye off of the charcoal, meaning basically stripping the dye from the charcoal, and then we can run it through our analytical equipment to figure out what dye is in there and how much. You can detect dye in the parts per trillion. Wow. It's not visible to the naked eye at those concentrations.
Yeah.
So oftentimes we try to put just enough dye in the water where we can detect it, but nobody else can. And so with this, we'll take a water sample too. So this will tell us, did the dye come through there, yes or no? The water sample will tell us right now how much dye is still in the water at the time of collection.
I gotcha.
So Plunkett, explain to us how that works.
Oh, goodness. I have no freaking idea. Here's the thing: parts per trillion is a number that I cannot even fathom in my brain.
Not even close.
I get that you have to have a very sophisticated piece of machinery to pick up the dye off the charcoal, off all the stuff, right? But I can't even begin to explain how it works. Here's what I thought we were going to get into going into this conversation with him. When he was talking about dye tracing, I honestly, this is ignorant of me, I get it. I honestly thought they put dye in the water somewhere and then ran downstream and waited for it to come out.
No way.
Oh, for real. And it was like, oh, there it is. It's red or it's blue or it's whatever. Like, it's the color. It's the thing I put in the water. Here it comes, right?
Right.
And then somebody else is somewhere further at a different, I don't know, cut off in the river, bottom of the cave or little spring they found or whatever, and they go, oh, it showed up here too. Like,
here it is.
It's
red
here's
again.
how it's working. Yeah.
Blood in the water.
I just had no idea that's the kind of stuff we were talking about.
Yeah.
And it makes sense once we learned what they were doing there and the fact that it was like a very prestigious operation and it's like kind of world class, that they really knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
But I thought, honestly, like I said, it's ignorant of me. I thought we were showing up, caves in Missouri. You're in the hills. It's a bunch of hillbillies. And they're throwing dye in the water to run downstream to go, here it is in this spot. Here it is in this spot. The deal too.
You better go.
And so when he started explaining all that they do and how it all works and whatnot, I couldn't even, it took me a couple days to process all that I'd learned.
Yeah.
Truly.
No, it really is like some high science stuff.
It's awesome.
Being done in the middle of nowhere in the woods
Yes.
and underground in this cave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if NASA is consulting you, you're doing some real science.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. These guys, they were so legit, so professional. And you say that and it's ignorant. And I'm with you. I didn't really know either. I mean,
ignorance in the purest term.
Yeah.
Not like a negative. Like, I just did not know.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of the same for me. I mean, I had a little bit of an understanding of karst just because I had been researching a little bit to do the interview, but I wasn't sure either. And honestly, you think about it, it's like, well, you'd think that you could just do exactly what you just explained, but when you start to realize how water seeps and soaks through the cracks, and I even saw on Facebook some of the comments were like, well, why are you doing that? Why are you adding chemicals into the water? And why don't you just put something that floats that's tiny and you can kind of follow it with a GPS tracker? And it's like, that can't go through the earth. Like, it's not just a stream that's flowing underground, and in that video you saw a creek there, but that's not how it all works. Like,
yeah, it looks like a creek, but that's the meeting place of miles, I imagine, of groundwater and subterranean water that's all seeping through that whole cavern system.
Yeah. No, it is pretty wild. Some of the comments that I thought were fun on this, just because, and when you get a reel that gets over 1 million views, you're going to get people from all over the world who may, or they haven't listened to the episode or they don't know really what we're talking about.
We don't have 1 million people listening to the episodes.
No,
so
I wish,
no
man, that'd
way.
be cool. So some of these, the cool ones were like teachers who were like, oh, this is so cool. I'm going to share this with my ecology class next week. We're going to talk about this, blah, blah, blah. The thing that people just did, like, had the hardest time wrapping their mind around, which totally understandable, is that 4 grams in the video, he's holding a little baggie that it's bigger than a tea bag, but not by much. It's like a playing card almost.
Yeah, it's like a Ziploc snack size.
Yeah. And
like smaller than a sandwich bag.
He's got little pieces of coconut charcoal. And the thing that people couldn't wrap their mind around was, he said, over an acre of surface area on those little pieces. And people were like, they were just calling BS. They were like, they watched the video and they're like, that's not true. I'm like, okay, how are you going to say that? Like, you're just an online person commenting, and the scientist, this world-renowned expert, is like telling you the facts. Yeah. And you're like, nah, I don't believe it. So that was the thing that people couldn't wrap their head around. But it's activated carbon. It's because it's so porous. There's so many different intricacies where the dye can adsorb to, not actually absorb.
Right.
Adsorb. And then they can pull that off and detect it by the parts per trillion.
Yeah, but explain the surface area. If you could take the carbon and open it and unfold like all of the porous parts, and it would cover an acre.
Right. It's kind of like the best way I could think about describing it is maybe two ways. One, it's like gold. You can take a very small amount of gold, and if you were to hammer it out to like the thinnest level that gold can be, you could take like a golf ball size, and it would hammer out to way over the size of a tennis court or a football field. It's crazy.
Right.
The other way to think about it would be picture putting a drop of oil in water and how far that spreads out. That slick, that sheen. It can, when it spreads out that much, it can cover so much more ground.
The like molecular level.
At the molecular level, yeah.
That makes sense.
That's basically what's happening with the coconut charcoal too. So anyways, that was just something different, like completely different world for us to dive into that and get into some of the science. There was another one that was just, this one didn't get 1 million views or anything like that, but this one I just thought was super interesting and wanted to play it. And it was him talking about the bear bones that they found. And he was talking about, they had these bear bones in the cave. They found it. They had it, carbon dated, and they were able to get an age off of it. So I'm going to play that one real quick. This is the bear that we were talking about.
Yeah, so these are black bear paw bones. We took one, I sent it to an analytical lab in Miami, Florida that does radiocarbon dating. They extracted collagen from it and dated it to 17,000 years before present. So with plus or minus 300 years on either side. So those paw bones are about 17,000 years old.
And this is a black bear.
Black bear.
Not a short-faced bear.
No, this is a black bear.
That's a bone right there, right?
So this one is right there, yep. And these are little cave formations that have broken off. But
so it's this one,
that one,
and then just a whole.
These here, that one back.
So for me, this one really just a cool thing. It really for me was like the first time that I've heard of radiocarbon dating that wasn't just like hundreds of millions of years old or however many millions of years old. 17,000 years ago, I can pretty much wrap my head around.
Totally.
Like it's a long time, but it felt very much within the realm of possibility of like, that actually checks out. Makes sense for me. And I just don't normally get that when they're talking about however many millions of years ago.
Totally.
I'm like, I don't even know what to do with that.
Yeah, it's not a different critter. It's not some animal you've never seen before, never thought about until a scientist told you to think about, or an archaeologist, or paleontologist, or geologist. Geologist is rock.
One of the ologists.
Paleontology is animals.
Paleontology.
Archaeology is kind of all of it.
I don't know.
Anyway.
One of the ologies for sure.
Well, yeah.
Gotta be.
But yeah, you're right. It's not like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. That was a long time ago. It's like, oh, it's a black bear.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. And it was in this cave. Then here's his bones.
Yeah.
And they hadn't found the rest of it.
No, they hadn't.
Only the paw.
I know. Something
and they've
must
looked.
Have, yeah, I know. And he excavated right there, and he would have seen it under that sediment. Granted, he didn't go back. There was that little shelf there that they maybe could have gone back further, and there were formations that they probably didn't want to break kind of in front of that. So it could be back there, but I think it's also plausible too that like something else went in there and chewed up the bone, like a coyote or a red wolf, whatever, used to be living around here to suck the bone marrow out or something like that. You just never really know.
Yeah, that one was fun. It's cool seeing bones that you know what they look like.
Yeah.
And then he tells you, I mean, it's been carbon dated and it's old.
Yeah.
Like it's Ice Age era in Missouri, old.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It is wild.
And then at the back of the cave is the short-faced bear.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably weren't living at the same time, but they've been in the cave. They both been in that cave at least at one point.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It is wild. The history and the animals that used to live here on North America in the Ozarks blows my mind. In some ways I wish, I wish we still had them, even though a lot of them were ferocious predators that would
You don't want a short-faced bear running
take your
around
wife
when you're
and
trying
child,
to deer hunt. Yeah.
leave you alone and destitute.
No, that was cool though.
Yeah, I enjoyed that episode. Something fun for sure. Okay, I'm gonna switch it up. We're talking. The next one is we fired up the Cajuns.
Yeah.
This was the Arkansas gumbo reel that we did, and man, it just so here's the background on it. Well, I can't really play it. I didn't even think about that
Why not?
Because it's just music.
Oh.
And a video.
Yeah, that's funny. Saw somebody talking. Wait, have you told the story of going out to your creek and killing ducks in the cold?
No, I didn't.
Because the last time we talked about this, I said, if it gets really cold, you ought to do this.
Yeah, I was going to not mention it because I don't want people to.
And then you went and did it.
No, yeah.
Well, no, you don't have to name spots, but this is the backdrop. Because it's a reel that doesn't have any music.
Yeah. No, it does have music.
Well, I'm sorry.
All it has.
Sorry, it doesn't have any talking.
Right.
You ought to give the backdrop, and then we can not play the reel and then talk to the comments and all the Cajun hate you got.
Yes, the Cajun hate.
Yep.
Yes. So it was a couple weeks ago. We had talked about when it gets cold, things ice over. Go look for the creeks, right? Go look in the creeks, see if there's ducks down there because they're looking for
find moving water.
Yeah, they're looking for moving water. And so I did it, and this property that I went to is my property. It's one that I've had for a couple of years, but I've just trapped on it here and there. I deer hunt on it here and there, and it's not a big piece of property. It's small, but it does happen to back up to the creek. So I was like, I don't know, we'll see. I've never seen ducks down there, but I did one time see a fox in person when I was there deer hunting walk up out of the creek with a duck in his mouth.
Whoa.
And I was like, okay, you know what? I know
it's happened once.
There's at least been a duck here before in history, right? So I knew that was potential, but I really kind of just had a day to burn, and I was like, I'm just gonna go out there and sit, and if I don't see anything, fine, I'll just look at the water and watch the sunrise. That's great. Went down there, threw out some decoys that I found in my attic, set them up. I'm not a duck decoy spread expert by any means. I threw those suckers out there. Half of them floated downstream. I had to go get in my kayak and get them and pull them back and bring them a little shallower so they wouldn't float away. Anyways, finally, about, I don't know, not even finally, 20 minutes after sunlight, I look to my left and I see these, what I think they're decoys. I'm like, oh crap, some of my decoys floated off again, but they got in the eddy and now they're upstream. Like, dang it, I'm gonna have to go get those. Well, it took me about 5 seconds and I realized those aren't decoys. Those are ducks. They're coming. Like they're here and they're swimming downstream and they're looking right at my decoys and they're on their way. Just, the creek's not that wide, so they're headed right to me. And sure enough, they pull up, swimming in the water, get right into my decoy spread. And then they realize these ducks aren't real and they start looking around. And by then it was too late. I was on them. And so popped the drake. The hen flew up in there, popped the hen right there, got them both. And I was just ecstatic. For a property that, I didn't even know that they were there, and I've just hunted and trapped a little bit on it. To know that I also can sometimes kill ducks on it, just primo.
Pretty special.
It's pretty special. So, and those are my first mallards, ducks to kill in the Ozarks. Mm-hmm. The only other times I've killed ducks has been outside of the Ozarks, going to Kansas or Missouri or down in the Delta. So, yeah, pretty special. Super excited about it, and I ended up. I'm going to get it mounted just because it's a cool story and things like that. But I also wanted to make a duck gumbo because a couple weeks ago when I went down to Stuttgart, the host that I was staying with, Michael Drew, who we've had on, he told his story about his public land bear. His friends made some duck gumbo that was phenomenal. So it was some of the best gumbo I've ever had. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to try to make that. I asked for their recipe, and I wasn't going to share. I was going to change it up to be a little bit different for my purposes. But they were like, this is kind of a secret family recipe, and they didn't share it with me.
Hey,
which I actually
guns. I'm here for it.
I respect so much, and I love it. And I was like, totally get it. I'll find another recipe and I'll tweak it and I'll make it my own. And so what I wanted to do was kind of do a spin off of a traditional duck gumbo or just a traditional gumbo and do an Arkansas style. And then I thought, like, Arkansas gumbo kind of sounds catchy, trendy. It'll be something different. And so I took the bear fat, the bear lard grease from the public land bear that we got in the fall, and I used that for my roux instead of vegetable oil. Because the traditional roux is made with vegetable oil and flour, and you mix it up and you wait till it gets that dark Cajun roux color. And so instead of the oil, I used the grease.
The bear grease, the bear oil.
And seriously, dude, I kid you not, I've made gumbo before, and this was twice as good. 3 times. I mean, the flavor, the richness of that fat versus the oil, I really feel like made a huge difference. So, and then, I say I'm not inventing this. It's kind of a spin-off, but you look back in history, what do you think Cajuns used back in the day when bear fat was traded up and down the Mississippi River?
Bear fat.
They were using bear grease. So it's actually not an Arkansas original thing at all.
No.
It's just kind of
we have a lot of bear.
Yeah, and we happen to have some fat, and so made that. And I kind of took a recipe that I found off the internet and spun it and made it a little bit different. But in that recipe, the recipe called for tomatoes. Okay, and a can of Rotel actually is what it said, and that was one part I didn't change. And I was just like, okay, I'll add some Rotel. I'll add some tomatoes. No biggie, right?
Yeah.
This can't be a big deal, right?
There's no way it can be.
It's just gumbo, and this is a recipe I found online. Well, you would have thought I slapped a baby, kissed your sister. I mean,
poke the bear.
Poke the bear. The Cajuns fired up like I just had done the worst thing in the world, and thousands of comments on this one post saying, I learned some Cajun slang that I didn't know. They're calling me a couillon, which I think means crazy person. They're saying throw that in the long grass. That's a duck soup. That's not no gumbo. How dare you call us out and say that we don't know what we're talking about? I'll read you the caption because I got a little I wanted to get a little bit feisty with it and talk to my Cajun brethren down there, which I have a newfound respect for after all of this. I got nothing but love for these people because they are so passionate about their food. But let me read you this caption. So I wrote, down in Louisiana, they think they know gumbo, but up here in Arkansas, we like to turn it up a notch. No store-bought oils, no gimmicks, just a bear grease roux so rich it'll make a Cajun rethink his life choices. Duck from the flooded timber of the Delta, grease from the hollers of the Ozarks, and a pot so good it'll have you licking the ladle. This ain't just gumbo. It's Arkansas gumbo.
I'm here for it.
And so that was enough for people to be like, you lost your mind. How dare you call out the Cajuns and then throw tomatoes of all things.
They said that's soup.
In the gumbo. And so here's what I learned. If you're going to try to make something traditional, look up what a traditional recipe actually is.
Yep.
But the other thing is, there's a ongoing and existing debate that is controversial, and I just happened into it. Creole gumbo is typically like New Orleans style gumbo, is different than Cajun gumbo. Creole and Cajun are not the same thing at all. Creole gumbo does usually have tomatoes in it, but it's usually a seafood based gumbo, and you don't really mix your meats like a land animal and a sea animal. So they're throwing in like the shrimp, they're throwing in whatever else you throw in a Creole gumbo.
Yeah,
Cajuns, they do it differently, and they do not put tomatoes in their gumbo,
and they do not mix animals,
and they don't mix animals, and they are they've got that sacred recipe that they use, and so
that they won't share.
It's
fair.
And so, anyways,
it's about as hotly debated as beans and chili.
Yeah,
like everything was going off. I was like, this is just another variation of beans and chili argument.
Yeah,
but that's further west. So you found an argument further east and south, but then there's an argument that's happening west of us with the Texans of do beans belong in chili?
Go in chili, yeah,
and it's a whole thing.
It is a whole thing. What do you think?
Absolutely.
I love beans and chili.
Give me a venison chili. Yeah. I mean, I can give you a recipe at some point. I'll share it on here at some point.
Yeah.
But a venison chili with a good bean, a good pinto bean, you got to. Beans belong.
I got a couple different types of beans.
But I'm not a Texan, and I'm also not a Cajun.
I'm glad I'm not.
I'm a hillbilly. I'm an Ozark hillbilly.
That's right.
So I put tomatoes in my duck gumbo and beans in my chili,
That's right.
And I'm happy about it.
Yeah, 100%. And I will say,
I don't apologize to anybody.
Again, it was so good. Like, you may not call it gumbo. I'm calling it gumbo. It's Arkansas gumbo. I'm calling it gumbo because it was so good. We ate on it for a couple days, and it seemed like every day it got better, like tomato dishes usually do, like a spaghetti or a chili or something like that. It was phenomenal. I'll never make it a different way. And
that's the way to go.
People can hate on me for throwing tomatoes in there. I don't care. Some of my favorite comments. This one is and I love the names too. All these people, they've got Cajun sounding names. So this is a Dylan Thibodeau. Thibodeau says, every time someone puts tomatoes in a gumbo, a Cajun angel loses its wings. This guy said, you put tomatoes. Shut up. That ain't gumbo. Where's the okra? Get the F out of here. There was another one. A lot of them had issues with my sausage not being a true andouille, even though I got it from the store. It said andouille, but I guess it's not Cajun andouille. And some of that is we don't have the ingredients up here that they have down there.
No, we don't.
But I got a lot of get that Yankee gumbo out of here. Put that in the long grass.
What was the guy who was asking? He was ticked off about the tomato, and then said, "But I am interested in the bear grease. Can you tell me what that is?" And your response had me cackling. Like I remember laying on the couch. My wife and I were just hanging out in the living room. Kids were asleep. She's like, "What are you laughing at?" I was like, "This comment response that got sent back to this guy has me dying."
Oh man, I was just having fun with it. Yeah, he asked about he was like, "Oh, the bear grease is an interesting thing. I'll definitely try that with the roux." And he said, "What's that like?" And I said, "Okay, imagine if butter and bacon had a love child that grew up in the deep woods, feasting on acorns and blackberries, and occasionally swiping a beehive's hard-earned honey. That's bear fat. It's like cooking with the ghost of a well-fed frontier trapper, whispering, 'Now that's how you fry biscuits, son.'"
It's so dumb. It's so perfect.
You just got to have fun with these because people they take it so serious, and I just like to mess with people. It's easy to go to like people are like, you want to fight with me, and then I fire them back with like y'all got internet down there in Louisiana? Good for you guys. Welcome to the World Wide Web.
So yeah, that's Arkansas gumbo.
That is Arkansas gumbo. So y'all make it. If you got some bear fat, I realize not everybody does, but if you have some or you know somebody's got some, please ask for it and make your roux with the bear fat. You will never go back if you have the option.
Go kill a black bear and get some bear fat.
Why not? Go do it.
And if you can't, find a buddy who can kill a black bear, get some bear fat.
That's right.
That stuff is awesome.
It's so good.
I keep making bear fat biscuits because we keep having snow.
Mm-hmm.
Dude. Bear fat biscuit with some bear fat base gravy.
Yeah,
it's just
you need to
nuts.
You need to post a reel showing how you do that so people can get a feel for it.
I should do what you do when they get blown up online.
Blow it up, man.
I'm in the groove in the kitchen. I can't film.
I know,
it too.
And I will say, cooking that gumbo and trying to film, especially all the different ingredients that go into a gumbo, it was stressful.
I believe it.
Trying to document that and doing it.
I believe it.
But I just tried to like figure it out, and it ended up going okay. So
quick sidebar here that we can cut out if we need to. Did we give Erin Rowe some bear fat?
No.
We haven't yet?
Not yet.
We need to get her some.
I've got some in my freezer with her name on it.
Okay.
I just haven't.
Chef Erin Rowe, you're getting some bear fat.
I haven't linked up with
Here's
her.
why I remember her. So my mom bought my dad her cookbook for Christmas. Mm-hmm. And we've been, like we said, there's been snow, at least as the time of recording. And I went over to my parents the other day, and my mom was like, "I read through this whole book."
No way.
Like, she's like, "Yeah, I just sat here yesterday and read it." It's
Wow.
like, really? Like a history and a cookbook? She's like, "Yeah, every page."
Wow.
Like, what'd you think? She's like, "It was awesome. Like I learned so much. It was so well done." She was, I guess she was bored.
Yeah.
Just stuck in the snow.
Just needed
She read the whole thing
literature.
and loved it. She was like, I learned so much and all this history and all this cool stuff. Like, I'm really glad y'all talked to her. I'm glad I have her book.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Shout out to Chef
Way to
Erin
go,
Rowe,
Chef Erin.
'cause my mom loved your book.
Yeah.
And I've read it too. And I've read it in bits and pieces. And now I'm almost through the whole thing. But my mom sat down and read the thing.
Cover to cover.
Yeah, cover to cover.
Way to go,
So
Mom.
We'll have to get her some bear fat.
That's cool. Yeah, we definitely owe her some. I've been trying to, I just haven't linked that back up with her, but I do have, if you're listening, Chef, I got you. Okay, moving on. We just recently had an episode with Tim Hammer, the foraging guru.
Yep.
And this one again was a little bit different than what we normally do. It's kind of like, I feel like a lot of people see foraging as kind of like a hippie activity, if you will. And it is, but it's cool. Like, I still think it's pretty cool. And you mix the hunting side with the foraging, And again, bringing it all back to food.
Yep.
And serving, your wild game with your wild forage, veggies and herbs and plants and stuff like that. I just think it makes for a really interesting, eclectic kind of meal that nobody else who's spending time outside or who's not spending time outside would ever get to try those flavors together. So I'm a fan. I'm not a forager. I've never been. Other than morels.
Morels, blackberries, maypops, persimmons.
Yeah.
That's about it for me.
Yeah. Yeah, blackberries for me too. I'm not done with the maypops or the persimmons. But yeah, I will definitely be trying to learn more about that and trying to do that, especially coming up here turkey season. We're gonna be walking around and scouting a ton. So we had a couple good ones from our interview with Tim. Both of these had several 100,000 views and shares on Facebook and Instagram across the two. And again, I just think it was different. I feel like we kind of hit into that like hippie foraging crowd, which if anybody spends more time in the woods than hunters and anglers, it's that crowd. Like,
oh, for sure.
They are outside doing it. So
protector of the wild places they are.
They are. So I'm gonna play this first one. I thought this one was cool.
Bur oak is the largest North American oak, and so this is the bur oak acorn flour.
Yeah.
And then once you've got some milled flour, I mean, are you using this for anything that has flour? Like, are you making a biscuit with this?
What do you like to make with it?
Just the other night we did fried chicken.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
That
Breaded it with an acorn.
get your garlic powder, your onion powder, your pepper, your salt, your normal spices if you like. Or if you want to trade pepper, you could do pepper for sumac, which is here.
This is sumac. I think of sumac as like poison sumac.
This is winged sumac
That's so good.
Yeah, it's real
yeah,
good.
It's
staghorn
almost got a
sumac.
tang to it.
If you take these heads, and now you'll probably recognize these heads once I pull one out. This is staghorn sumac.
Oh, yeah.
You usually see these on a much bigger plant. This is great habitat for quail and turkey.
I would assume you're taking off the berries and then you're grinding that. You're not grinding
Yeah.
the stem at all.
Processing is everything when it comes to foraging. You can go out there and forage something that's fresh and really easy to eat, but a lot of times something needs a little process like this. Easiest way is put this in a plastic bag and crush it with your fingers. You pour it all out. Pick out the stemmy parts. This is great on every kind of meat you can imagine.
That's delicious. I would put that
Thank
on anything.
It makes me want to try acorn flour, I guess. I mean, we have bur oak. I know where to find bur oak.
Right.
And I know Rick Spicer and others have talked about, like, they're going to go get a bunch of acorns and mill them up and use them and make bread and all this stuff. And I've never tried it. I've never attempted it. I've had some food prepared by it, but it's never been enough to make me want to go do it.
Yeah.
Right. But the bur oak specifically, he was talking about how the tannin levels are different and the way you have to process is different, and the boiling and the soaking and all that kind of stuff. It seems like more entry level than just if you went and picked up a white oak or red oak acorn and tried to eat it.
Yeah.
Right. It wouldn't taste as bad, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'm kind of down to try it come the fall. Like, I want to go I know where a huge bur oak is. Like, I'm envisioning it now. It's at the edge of a field in the woods. And the acorns are huge.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know, maybe early fall this next year, I go pick up a bunch and stick some in a bucket and see what floats and throw those out. And the rest I go, did he bake them?
You roast them. Yeah.
Roast them. He roasted them.
You have to leach them to get some of those tannins
That's right.
out.
Leach and
then
roast.
Roast.
Yeah. I want to try it.
Yeah.
I want to fry something in it. That sounds like fun.
The fried chicken thing just sounds like a cool concept to me, just to take something that's like, an acorn that you would normally never eat, and you're just like, that's for the deer and the squirrel and whatever else comes
And the
through.
hope is that it's so normal, like a flour, but also enough different that you're eating a piece of fried chicken going, oh man, like what is in this thing? This is awesome.
I want like that nutty flavor that you get, because like people use
but not too much
peanut oil to like
right.
fry their chicken, and that's really good stuff if you can impart some of that flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And like Chick-fil-A, that's one of the things that they do.
Yeah.
And so if you could get a little bit of nutty flavor without overpowering it, I think it'd be pretty good.
It'd be fun.
Yeah. To your point, the knock on foraging is it's a lot of effort. You got to get a lot if you're going to like have a meal that fills you up, I feel like. And it takes some expertise. Like
it's a lot to learn.
You got to learn, and you got to make sure you're picking stuff, especially when it comes to mushrooms. Like,
yes,
it's not an area I don't think you want to just mess around
No.
and eat a few things.
Even morels, you're like, yeah, morels. And then people are like, well, there's false morels.
Right.
And you're like, crap.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Oh boy.
Morels, once you find them, are pretty easy to pick out. But
yeah.
no, you don't want to mess around with mushrooms or things you pick up off the, forest floor.
Yeah.
You really just don't.
You gotta know your stuff before you go doing that.
No. Or yes. Yes, know your stuff.
Yes.
I have a quick foraging story. So this actually applies to Mr. Daniel Millette, growing deer. You just heard his part 1 and 2.
That's right.
But after we talked with him, I was like, I got to get rid of all these dadgum cedars on my hunting property. Anyway, I was walking around with a guy who owns a mill here pretty recently to show him all the cedar trees.
We just hanging out with a guy who owns a mill.
Well, he's also going to log it for me.
We were just walking around on the property.
If nothing falls through, he should send me a contract that says I get to take your cedars.
Yeah.
And he takes them. And he gets to do with them what he wants, right? And he makes money off of it, but I don't pay the dude to take the cedars. The cedars suck. In case you're new to the show, I hate cedar trees. They're not good for the landscape.
Let it be known officially.
They're not. They're bad.
Cedars.
Yeah, they suck up all the water off the ground. They reproduce like crazy. They don't provide really anything for the deer and turkeys and whatnot. So we're walking around, and he points to the ground, and one of these groves where it kind of opens up. There's some maple, also not good, cedar, and then a few oaks. And he's like, you know what those are? And it's freezing outside. There's nothing. It's just like brushy stub. It's like, no. He's like, those are huckleberries. I said, really? He's like, yep. So wild blueberry. And they are everywhere.
Really?
Where we were, right in the middle of it. He's like, you ought to come out here in like June and check this mountainside out because I think you're going to have berries everywhere. So I marked that spot on OnX. We'll be back.
All right.
We might forage ourselves up some berries.
You know what? I know a guy who makes a pretty mean blueberry red wine reduction. And you could up your game a little bit.
You better
with some
believe it.
Wild pick blueberry.
I'm going to save a backstrap just for that. Actually, I'm out of backstrap. What day is it? I'm going to try to get a deer before Arkansas deer season closed down.
Get one more backstrap.
To get a backstrap. But yeah, man.
That's cool.
That's my one foraging story.
I like it.
As of this year. I have plenty more, but they're all pretty basic.
Not me. I've picked some blackberries. I have eaten some morels, and that's about my foraging experience.
We're learning.
We are.
We're trying real hard to learn.
There's a lot to learn. There's just a lot of stuff out there. Okay, this was one more from Tim Hammers that I wanted to play. And mainly there's just a fun fact that I got out of this one that I wanted to share. This was the one about the lotus.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually 2 things I want to talk about on this one. I'm going to play it real quick.
What is this thing right here? I've seen those in antique stores.
Wreaths and Christmas
Yeah.
time. So this is American lotus. If you guys have ever been in slow-moving water with perfectly round lily pads, that's this bad boy.
Oh, really?
That seed head, when green, is ripe, and that's where these seeds came from. You get to harvest in a kayak.
Yeah.
How amazing is that? You can even pop them. You don't even have to cut them. You can go and pop them off. And then you throw them in a pot with butter and some salt, like you would do popcorn, and you let them cook down until they've all cracked open. And it will taste, if it's young, like sweet corn. If it's old, like a potato.
What?
I put 20 seeds in my neighbor's pond here.
And you just plopped them in.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to plant them.
No, I threw 20 in there. I got 600 heads in 1 year.
That's a lot. American lotus. What do you want to talk about?
American lotus. 2 things. One, Tim had permission to do that in his neighbor's pond. There were so many people who were like,
just rogue.
I bet his neighbor's pissed. And
that's funny.
If he hadn't asked for permission, he probably would have been. Again, you hear that, and he put in, what do you say, 20, and he had 600 heads.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's crazy, like, invasive. I think they're native, but it's like verging on the grounds of like, okay, be careful where you put these, especially because it sounds like they can really take over. So just wanted to say that real quick. To Tim's defense, he didn't just do that because he wanted to. Like, he had permission to do that. So if you're going to do it, do the same thing. And just know, if you got a shallow pond and you do that, you're going to suck up a lot of water and you could drain the pond. So keep that in mind. The other thing that I did not know, that someone commented on it, and they said, let's see, the comment was something like, whoa, you didn't have to show that. And is this lotus pods? And so if you haven't seen a lotus pod, go look at this video online or look it up online. It looks like a wasp nest, basically.
Mm-hmm. Holes.
It's just a bunch of holes and it's got little seeds in it. Well, people were like, hey, you didn't have to show that. And some person was like, thanks for the warning. And I was like, what the heck is going on? What are these people mad about? And then one person commented and said, whoa, thanks for the trypophobia warning, not something like that. And then like a vomit emoji. And I'm just like, what is this? So trypophobia, this is a real thing. It is, I've Googled it here. Trypophobia is an intense fear or aversion to clusters of small holes or bumps. It is a specific phobia, which means it's an extreme fear of something that isn't actually dangerous. People get feelings of disgust or fear when looking at images or objects with clusters of holes, and there's a feeling of discomfort from the visual quality and spatial properties of the stimuli. Triggers are honeycombs, lotus seed pods. It's number 2 on the list.
No way.
Yeah. Sponges, bubble wrap, holes in diseased or decaying flesh. I
That
get that
makes
one a little
sense.
bit more. Spotted animals, skin problems like sore scars and spots.
But a lotus, like the lotus being number 2 on the list.
is like, it is
Somehow that, like, people's algorithm picked that thing up and they saw it and then went, are you serious? Like, how dare you?
It is wild. This is a real thing, and people suffer from this. It's not yet recognized as a mental disorder by the American Psychiatric Association, but it is. It can have a big impact on your well-being.
Interesting.
This is a real thing.
All that from Google.
All that from
That's
Google.
so good.
Trypophobia.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious about why. I would love to talk to somebody who has this. And
That's the thing about phobias, though. There is not a why.
it just it blows my mind. And there's some theories. So I looked it up a little bit. Here's a theory. That it is an evolutionary response that people have formed over years, responses to avoid danger or disease. For example, clusters of holes may resemble the eyes of a snake or a spider. You can think about too, like, again, the diseased skin and stuff like that. That's a bad thing you would want to stay away from, right? So that's one. And then some people are like, it's probably an obsessive compulsive thing. Your brain can't process the holes. It's distressing. It's an emotional contagion. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a little extreme.
Who knows what's really going on? But
I mean, I'm not a mental clinical psychologist by any stretch. But phobias, the thing about phobias is that it doesn't make you weird or bad or like it doesn't make sense. Like that's the thing about a phobia. And anybody who I've talked to about phobias says everybody has a little bit of phobia in them about something. You just may not know what it is yet.
Yeah.
There may be something that triggers you that goes, oh, I didn't know I would respond to that. Like for me with thick timber and brushy being lost.
getting turned around.
Legit.
That's
like,
right.
There's something in me that you don't have.
Yeah.
That when I'm turned around in the woods or I'm like, it's got to be a claustrophobic thing a little bit, but I'm in thick stuff and I can't see out, that it's not the normal response for me of like, oh, I'm a little bit stressed. It's like, I'm panicking.
Yeah.
I cannot stand being turned around or being in thick brush where I can't see the way out. Truly.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it's a phobia, but even walking around
some
property
level
that I know.
Right.
And it's like, oh, which way do I get out?
Yeah.
The which way do I get out moment where I don't know where it is like totally panic inducing.
Okay.
And it doesn't make sense. Like
No,
I didn't have an experience that would lead to that.
Right.
Like I didn't get
No
lost.
childhood trauma.
Yeah,
being left in the
I wasn't
woods.
like stuck in the woods.
Yeah.
It doesn't truly make rational sense. Like I know where I am.
Yeah.
I'm on the property that I know. But for some reason, even if I have maps and GPS and whatever, it's like I don't know how to get out of here.
When we were looking for that bear,
I'm freaked out.
You had a little bit of that, and
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like, well, we have Onyx, like we can always get back to where we were at.
And I'm like, we're gonna die.
You're like, I don't think so. I think this is
I don't
bad.
think I said that, but I was like, this is not good.
Yeah,
You were like, cool it. And I was like, dude, this is not good.
we'll be okay, buddy. Like,
So yeah, the phobia. It's interesting.
no, you're right.
But it's
I get that a little bit with like when we were down in the cave. I get a little bit claustrophobic, and just being 100 feet underground and knowing that if I had like an asthma attack, I have asthma. If I were to have a problem, y'all are gonna have to carry me out of there.
yeah.
That's gonna take a long time, and then we're in the middle of the woods. I just feel so far away from help. That freaks me out a little bit.
See, it's interesting. The cave wasn't tight enough for me to be claustrophobic.
Yeah,
And I knew the way out.
yeah.
So I was like chilling.
Yeah. Everyone's got their thing. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
But 100 feet down in the cave, for me, no big deal. For you, stressful. For me, in normal brush, it just in the dark.
Just
Totally stress
on the
inducing.
surface
For
of the
you,
ground.
totally normal.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about that kind of stuff.
for some people, looking at a honeycomb, terrifying.
I guess, or a lotus.
Or a lotus, terrifying.
Sorry, people.
Sorry.
We totally
Didn't know.
ruined their evening.
Sorry
They were
about it.
scrolling Instagram.
We'll
but
try to be better about posting things that trigger trypophobia.
That's funny.
Let's wrap it up. What do we have coming up? We've got some stuff coming up. We mentioned a few of the events that are coming up. Again, Brewhaw Bushwhack on April 5th.
Yep.
And the second annual Smallmouth Shootout,
May 31st.
May 31st.
Some content we have coming up. Let's put it in 2 buckets.
Okay.
Bucket number 1 that I'm most pumped about,
Yes.
turkeys.
Turkeys.
Just all things turkeys.
Gobble, gobble, baby.
We're going to do some turkey hunts. I'm going to do some turkey land management. We're going to do some turkey things. So,
Turkey recipes, maybe.
yeah, expect some, turkey stuff. We've talked about this before.
We have.
If you follow us, then we go seasonally. So,
That is what we do.
by the late winter, we start thinking about the early spring, and that
Yeah.
means fishing and turkeys and morels and all the good stuff. So I'm fired up for some turkey content. Expect some good turkey interviews coming up here pretty quick.
Absolutely. Spring in the Ozarks is just a phenomenal time to be outside. There's so many things to do.
You can't do it all.
And
You can try.
especially when you're coming out of a time like this where it's been cold, it's been snowy, people kind of been stuck up in their houses all day, maybe not getting out as much. It's just like, it's so welcome to have warm sunshine. The green is coming back out. There's fishing, there's foraging, there's turkey hunting. You can start floating again, hiking, camping. You cannot do it all. You literally cannot do it all. People who mountain bike, you could do that. You could golf, I guess. I don't know why you would. I'm just kidding. Anyways, there's a ton to do. So we'll have a lot of different stuff, but we're going to hone in on some turkey stuff. And then also, too, I mentioned it at the beginning, but the smallmouth shootout. So the guest, I teased it, the guest is Jackson Butt, who is a guru. If you want to learn about fly fishing and really hear from someone who gets into the details and has thought about every little thing, every theory, and has been doing it for a long time, Jackson Butt is the guy.
He's the guy.
We recorded with him last fall. I think, was it a fall or was it a spring?
I think it was spring.
Okay.
It's going to be a year ago.
We were talking with him. I can't remember exactly when, but we did a smallmouth episode with him, and we had to cut. Like, we talked for 2.5 hours, maybe 3
Longer than that. It
hours.
was like 3.5 hours.
And we had to cut it off and just like,
yeah.
we can only release so much on an episode where people, can digest it, and the rest of it we put on the check station. But he's so into the details, and so people who are really fanatics on fly fishing and want to know all the stuff, that we've got him, and we're going to be recording with him the week before the shootout, and then we're going to kind of fast track that episode to release right before. So it will be very relevant tactics, water temperatures, what's been going on, bugs. That will set you up to have some success in the shootout. So that's coming up. And then, again, turkeys, white bass run, the walleye run. We've got a guest coming up that will be talking some walleye, which I'm excited about because that is a delicious fish. Again, kind of back to the table, the dinner table. So, yeah, man, I'm excited about it. It's all good stuff. Spring is just an incredible time. So it will be time for you to, hopefully you hear this stuff and you want to go get out there and put it to the test.
I like it.
Cool.
We'll see y'all soon. Thanks for listening. Share this with a buddy, and we'll catch you on the next one.